Hey, what's going on? Can you guys hear me? That's a interesting coincidence, this song. Can you hear me? I'm just going to give it a minute before we get started. I don't actually know if anyone's here, but my plan now is to just start painting and whatever. We'll see what happens. Oh, Evan. A very distinguished guest. I don't think I can entertain you very much today, but I'm basically just planning to listen to music and paint right now. And if there's any comments, I'll chat. Let's see. Full screen share. I have to turn the volume off on my YouTube if I have it open. Is there an echo right now? I do have music on in the background, but that's because I don't really plan on talking very much. There's an echo. The volume's off on this YouTube. Let's see if the other ones. Volume claims to be off on both channels. Let's see. I do have the YouTube watch page open, but it's muted. Let's see. I am using headphones. So there's music in the background and it should just be my voice. If there's an echo, I don't know why. My voice is doubled. Sandslasher, are you hearing it doubled as well? Like if I'm talking, right? Like it's echoing or you're hearing it twice? All right, well, whatever that was, we'll just continue. So the plan for anyone who might be listening later, I don't know. My plan is just basically to play some music and draw and talk about the process of drawing and any fun questions, comments, whatever. We'll just shoot the breeze for a little while. And if this is fun, maybe do it again. If not, whatever. It was a good test. I have to paint this anyway, so I figured I may as well stream it. Let's just screen share here. Let's see. All right. All right, so you guys should be seeing an image of what I'm going to paint today, hopefully. And so this is what a raw scan looks like. It's just a penciled sketch. And I thought I would go through the process of taking it from penciled sketch to finished piece, depending on how long that takes. And just talk about the thinking that goes on here. All right. So this is the raw scan. It's scanned in color. Right now it's RGB. I do that because in grayscale, I feel like a little bit of richness is lost. So I'm going to start with RGB and then go to grayscale in a second. But yeah, that's what a raw scan looks like, nothing special. I don't use a special scanner or anything. I'm just going to isolate the image. And that's it, basically. I posted this a little while ago. So let's see. This will be colorized. Maybe I'll put a splash of background color just to make the composition look better. So first I'm going to go to grayscale. I may be doing this wrong. I've never been sure of this. But the basic process is to take the raw scan and apply Control L, go to levels. And depending on what your scanner is like, you may get a different reading than me. But yeah, I'm going to make the darks as dark as possible and get rid of any gray. Like, I don't know if you can see, but there's a bit of gray tone here in the paper. So I'm just going to lighten that until hopefully it's almost white. And you could still see there's light pencil lines here. But that's not going to matter. Depending on how this goes, I may or may not keep these pencil lines. Sand Slasher asks, how long did that take you to draw? Not long, 15 minutes-ish. I remember I was on the couch while TV was on, so this was just a doodle based on the short story that's going to be at the end of the Problematic Collection, the book that's coming out in June. And so this is going to be sort of a scene. I was just kind of sitting there thinking about the story. And this image popped into my head because we're going to have a young Xavier dressed up as this character. It's like a detective-ish looking character. And I liked this image so much, it made me laugh, that I decided to, maybe if not the cover of the book, I want it to be a postcard-sized illustration or something. It'd be fun. But anyway, so process-wise, this is all we did if you look at my history. And this could serve as a little tutorial, I guess, for colorizing. Not that I'm like a super professional at colorizing, but wow, Crystal. How are you doing, Crystal? I'm always amazed. Like, I can't believe people are taking time out of their day for this. I'm just doodling, but I'm amazed that you're here. I'm glad that you're here. Hat in Time. I've heard of that. That's a game, right? I don't know. I actually got this idea from my wife. She was telling me, because she's a really amazing costume designer and she does all kinds of stuff like that. So she was like, oh, it'd be cute to have Xavier in like a top hat and a mustache. And I don't think she's played Hat in Time, but the little kid wearing a detective outfit, I suppose, is a time-honored tradition. So let's see. Juggling a little too many things here. I don't know how I'm going to do this. So we have our painting here, or our pencil. And the first thing I want to do before I even start painting is make sure that the image is set up properly so that if and when I want to export it at a larger size or print it at a larger size, it'll be set up nicely. So right now the image size is 5 by 10 at 600 DPI. That's okay. Not amazing. I'm going to increase the size of the canvas to what? I'm having a brain fart. You know what? I'm not going to actually change the canvas size very much. Let's say if my target size is 6x9-ish. Let's see if 6x9 works. Right, good enough. All right, so I want to make a copy of the pencil layer first. Crystal's bored at work. It's funny, like as I'm painting this by myself, I'm just kind of sitting here listening to music, and I'm bored at work, my equivalent of work, let's say, just sitting here drawing. I'm like, would it be social to just stream this and see, like, let's all be bored together in the same room? But I'm really grateful that you came. Next time I'll send invites and stuff and get some fun people here to talk while I'm just drawing. Because I don't know if I can juggle talking and painting at the same time and listening to music. Right now, I've got the chromatics playing. Let's see what else I can play. A song called Bart on the Road. I like that song. Simpsons Wave. Okay, so no more procrastinating. I'm sorry. I'll get better at this as I keep doing it, I hope. Okay, pencil layer. Levels are off because you can see this is the white canvas here. And that's where the pencil layer is. So I want to play with the levels just a little bit more, not that it matters too much. But for our purposes, we don't want this paper texture throwing off our colors. So I'm going to just keep adjusting levels until the paper texture is gone, leaving us with an almost optimized pencil sketch. Now, setting this up for print is actually a huge pain, depending on the kind of printers you want to use. So I've been doing a lot of print tests, and it's not been the greatest because I don't have access to like a high-level printer at home, which I really want. But those can run anywhere between $1,500 to like $7,000, and I don't think this is as much as I would love this to be my full-time job. I don't think it's in the cards right now, so I don't think that that investment makes sense right now. So I've been running to like Staples doing print tests. But the way that you would set up a pencil file like this for a book, there's a lot of massaging that you have to do to the image to get it to print nicely. But anyway, that doesn't matter right now. All right, so let's say we have a 6x9 canvas here. I think 6x9, okay. So that's the print size of the book. And I'm going to just set up this image as if it was print ready. So first things first, I'm going to set up some guides. And basically, I'm just going to talk, like, you know, if any of you draw and you talk to yourselves as you're drawing, I'm just going to talk out loud. So I'm doing right now what's called the rule of thirds in composition. If any of you are familiar with photography, it's setting up your compositions so that all of the interesting elements of your image are going to fall along. If you can see these lines here, cut the image into thirds. So I want Xavier to kind of fit into that frame so that, well, basically it looks good. I'm sure there's great laws and theory behind it, but I'm not 100% familiar with it. And I always do a mirror test because you will see 1,000,001 problems with your drawings that you can't see when you're drawing it normally. And I became familiar with this as far back as, like, Leonardo did this, apparently. He didn't use the mirror test in Photoshop, obviously. But he mirrored his images using an actual mirror. And that way you see problems that you can't see when you're painting normally or drawing normally. And it could be for any number of reasons. I think it's because we tend to hold our papers a little skewed. Like, because I'm right-handed, let's say, maybe I hold my paper a couple of millimeters off to the side, and it creates these very slight tricks of perception. Like, the image is just a little off. Most people wouldn't notice or care, but all right, I'm going to just leave it as is for now. But if I wasn't live streaming, I would probably be more fastidious about this. But it looks fine. So we have our pencil layer here. And what we'll do after this, there's options, right? So what I'm going to do first is add what's called flat colors in colorizing when you're doing comics. So you're going to put down your flats first. And that's basically your way of, like, let's assume this pencil character is finished. Let's see here. What am I doing? Okay. So I'm going to put a layer underneath and name it flats. And this is what any colorist would do in comics, I think. And I'll explain why a little while later, in a little while. And then for the pencil layer, I'm going to change the blending mode to multiply. And the reason for that is, well, let's keep it normal first. I'll show you guys. I really hope this isn't boring, but when I was up and coming and learning, this kind of stuff was really interesting because I didn't know how it all worked. And my image is in grayscale, sorry. Okay, I'll change the music again. Okay, so let's say my pencils layer was normal, blending mode normal, and flats are normal. All right, so I chose a color of red, let's just say. My flats layer has red on it, and it's covering my pencil layer because these are all normal. What I'm actually going to do is make it so that you can see both the pencil layer and the color layer as if it was a piece of paper and I'm splashing watercolor, let's say. And I always use the pencil tool for this because if I want to change a color, I want a clean selection. So I'm going to put the flats layer under the pencil layer. And of course it disappears because right here this is all white canvas, but the red is still there. But when we change the pencil layer to multiply, the red shows up. And that's what we want. So I'm going to take this flats layer, and first thing is I'll just add a splash of color so that I know that it's transparent, the pencil layer. And we're going to just outline Xavier here. And this is going to take some time, so I hope you guys are as chill as me, because I may not talk very much during this part, but the music's there to keep us company, just like in real life. And I'm finding myself sounding like Bob Ross, but I like Bob Ross, so let's see. All right, so the basic goal right now is to separate, and the pencil layer doesn't exist on the flats layer, but on the flats layer, we're going to create a duplicate outline for Xavier here. And I just picked a random color right now, and we can reassign the colors as we go. So I don't know who's playing music-wise right now, but the video is called Time Cop 1983 Journeys, if anyone wants to bookmark that. I've been in a, what do you call it? It's that genre of music. It's kind of retro, but modern retro. Sand Slasher, do I have a name for this alter ego of Xavier? That's a good question. I'm going to say no right now. I could tell the story of what's going on here, but of course, spoilers. Like, I actually don't mind spoilers ever. So if someone likes the story and just wants to know what happens, I'm always happy to tell. But I also want to give people the option of opting out if they don't want to hear. But the scenario is that she's dressed up as a detective / mystery person because she's up to no good. And she needs to protect her identity. So she's going to do some sabotaging and mischief. She needs to keep... That's weird. Oh, I remember why I did this. Okay. So the pencil layer is basically kaput. I wasn't planning to keep it anyway, but the pencil layer is trashed now. Not trashed, but I don't feel like rescanning it. It's done here. I hope this isn't too boring, you guys. I'm sorry. If in the future you could like put this video to double speed or something. Sandslasher does not mind spoilers, but this live stream I think will be archived. So I guess I could give like a little teaser of what's going on. There is a short story at the end of the Problematic collection, which will have Xavier and Greg as kids, and it kind of tells the story of how they became imaginary friends. And through various events, there will be an event where costumes are appropriate, and Xavier was not invited to this event. And so she is infiltrating it by pretending to be this detective character. And maybe she's going to cause some trouble. I don't know. We're going to see what happens. Okay, so let's say right now I outlined Xavier. And we have the flats layer here. I hope you guys can see it okay. And got the pencils layer. So I'm going to further develop the flats layer by isolating more objects according to what colors they want to be. So for instance, I know her hat is not going to be the same color as her skin. So I'm going to isolate the hat using just a random color. Let's say I'll just pick a really different color. And again, this is called doing flats. And I think most colorists do this for comics. So if you ever want to be a colorist for comics, this is one of the ways you can do it. I think this is the standard way. I learned this way back in the day. There was a How to Color the DC Comics Way book. And I learned this with my copy of Photoshop CS2. And I'm not using CS2 anymore, but it may as well be. So I separated her hat. I'm going to separate the brim of the hat, whatever this is called. And I'm going to actually assign the proper colors after this step. And the reason for me to pick these weird colors is just so they can stand out and so I can make easy selections with the Magic Wand tool. So that when I decide what the colors are going to be, all I have to do is hit Control U, which is hue and saturation. And let's say I wanted to change the color of the hat here. I just hit Control U. I made the selection. And I can change to any color I want. And then I can paint after I put down the proper colors. So this is just a time-saving technique. And I think that's what the pros do. Sometimes I think I'm a pro, sometimes I think I'm not. So this is what this alleged pro does when he's coloring. This is the smart way to do it. If you're not smart, then you just paint. And hopefully all the colors turn out right. So let's see. This coat might be red. Her cloak, I'm not 100% sure. So let's pick a red. What does Bob Ross say? Let's pick some phthalo green. And I really should bring on other people to talk while I'm doing this. I hope this isn't boring. But then again, I like Bob Ross, so maybe I can be the boring guy of comics. I just talk and paint and listen to. Sandslasher, yes, I have. He asks, have I made a mistake in real life and tried to Control V? I think you mean Control Z. Undo? Yes. Yes, I have. My hand, like I'll be drawing on paper, my left hand will twitch. Because right now my left hand is on my keyboard and my right hand is drinking a Pepsi. But then how is the cursor moving? I don't know. This is a mystery that only Xavier can solve. I could talk about my day and stuff, but who cares? Maybe in the future. Like I had a kind of interesting day, not that interesting. I had a doctor's appointment this morning. It's always awkward when a stranger like looks you up and down. Excuse me, doctor. Or I should say you're welcome. You have the privilege of examining me. Never thought you'd hear Bob Ross say that. This is tedious, extremely tedious, and I'm really sorry. Normally I would just fast forward if I was filming myself. Talk amongst yourselves. Let's see. Hello, nurse. Exactly. Doctor's an interesting profession. In some ways, you have to get over a lot of hangups. Let's say it's similar to art, actually. Like looking at naked people, let's say, as an art student. I don't know if you can ever be like ready for it, but then you go to your first drawing class. If anyone ever experiences that, I went to art school briefly for a year and some change, maybe like a month. And my first real life drawing class, we were all freshmen, and they had the nude model come in. And then, you know, some people are kind of looking at the model like, oh, who's that? Oh no, is it one of those? And you can tell who's been to a drawing class and who hasn't before. I hadn't. And so I was just kind of like, you know, got my pencils out, got my drawing tools ready to go. And the drawing teacher, I guess, is like, all right, well, everybody sit down, you know, we're going to get started soon. And the model takes off their clothes, and then you get some people like snickering. And I mean, I guess it's awkward at first, but I would say within 5 to 10 minutes, maybe 20 minutes for some people, like you just get over it and you realize like, no, you're actually here to work. And maybe you can be silly and, you know, poke fun at some models, for instance. Like some days the teacher would bring in some pretty big, you know, let's say generously sized models, and some people would snicker, but it's also extremely useful to practice. I'm trying to think of a sensitive way to put it, but like, let's say a person's heavy, right? But if they come in and they're very heavy and they're willing to model for you, on one hand, you're tempted to laugh, but on the other hand, you should be very grateful, because then you can study something that maybe, how often would you get to study that? And the reason I got into this conversation in the first place was because, you know, I was talking about doctors, but like, yeah, big boned, exactly. But, you know, between being a doctor who, you know, maybe you go see, what do they call it, an autopsy or something. You're looking at cadavers and you're looking at the inside of people, and the art profession, in some ways, you're just looking at the human body in some ways that a lot of people don't get to or don't want to. And so at first, you know, I'm a little self-conscious, let's say, at the doctor, but then I just remind myself, like, they've been to the same classes I have. They've seen the human body so many times that what's the point of being embarrassed? Even though I was embarrassed, it's like at the same time, like, I've been in rooms with all kinds of people, and that's just the profession. But it's funny because I grew up with a lot of people who were very timid, and then they grew up to be doctors. I'm like, geez, you must have really struggled during your anatomy classes. I don't know what kind of anatomy classes doctors go through, but I'm sure you got to get over that hump. Right, so I got most of the flats here. Now I have some decisions to make. First things first is going to be, skip this commercial. There's a lot of commercials on YouTube these days. If anyone's wondering, I'm listening to an artist named Mitch Murder, who's amazing. There's a song called Remember When, and Night Train is now playing. He's awesome. Hate me to be a gynecologist doctor. I was talking about this morning, actually. There's no androcologists, are there? What's with the lack of diversity there, doctors? What's up with that? I'm getting off topic. Let's see. So I do want to talk about gynecology. Yes, that sounds fascinating. I'll just do the colors first. Maybe you guys can help me. I'm trying to think of what colors are best for Xavier here. I think my wife disagrees with me, but I think one of her best colors is red. I like red on Xavier a lot, but I'm told that's not a good choice. And depending on what I choose for her clothes, it's going to affect what the background color is going to be. So let's see. We know her skin color is a pinkish, let's see, purple. Actually, I probably shouldn't do this right now because the pencil layer is still there. I'll just bring the colors a little closer to what I want them to be. Sandslash. Yeah, you're right. It's probably going to be a black top hat. Boring. I'm not great with color. I've never been great with color. Let's see. Some white. Some happy little clouds. All right. Inside, it's going to... I'm looking at it. It looks like it's just going to be a black cloak. That's boring, but black seems to be the color. Let's just do black for now. And the interior can be red, maybe. And of course, all these colors can be changed. Eventually, I'm going to do something here, like this. Little Dracula-ish. I don't know. Black goes with everything. That's true. A lot of my clothes were black when I was in high school, and I wear a lot of muted colors now. Like, I don't want to ever have to think about what I'm dressed as, how I'm dressing. It's the same with my hair, actually. I don't want to remind myself that I have to groom myself. So the less I have to do in the mirror, the better. The less I have to look at myself. Every time I look in a mirror, it shatters, and I don't know why. Maybe you guys can help me figure that out. Just kidding. Pink cape. Yeah. The trouble with the pink cape is that I don't think... Right now she's trying to be incognito in the story, so she doesn't want to stand out. She actually wouldn't be known as Xavier in the story. People wouldn't recognize her. So if she's wearing pink, she's going to pop out. Sandslasher, you flatter me, sir. It shatters because it can't take my perfection. That's what Greg would say, something like that. It's not because I'm hideous. It's because the reason that girls don't talk to him is because he's too good looking, not because he's an awkward so-and-so. All right, so I can't make more progress with the colors, and I'm going to say why. Right now, the pencil layer is shading. All the shadows are done in the pencil layer because it was just a pencil sketch. And when you're coloring, you have to make some really tough decisions. Let's see, how do I put this? Basically, you can't... If you color on top of a black layer, and a lot of comics have this problem, it's going to look too dark and pale. It's going to make the colors look muted. So let's say this was her cloak on the inside, and we want this to be a nice bright red. What color is this anyway? If you guys look at the color wheel, you can see where it stands on the HSV. Or no, I don't have HSVs turned on right now. It's okay. But basically, it's not a very bright red. Let's say I make the brightest red, which is very bright. But I want to add shading to this. That's one way to do it. And you could probably leave that alone and nobody cares. But the problem is that we have, as a shading color, if you look at right here, what happens to the cursor? It goes down to here. And this goes down to here. Very dark colors. And maybe those aren't the colors I want to be the shadow. Like, let's say I'm really bold and I want the shading color to be, let's see, we got a red here. Let's say I want it to be a dark purple, a nice bright purple. Because that's kind of cool, right? Then I put the pencil layer back, which is, it kind of looks okay, but you got all this pencil junk here, and maybe you don't want it there. So now we have to make some tough decisions. And just as an exercise, what I'm going to actually do is ink over the pencil layer. And that's going to take a crazy amount of time. And I hope you guys don't get too bored. But I like these colors for now. It's not amazing, not broken, but they are changeable. And that's where we want it to be right now. We want to make all our color decisions after. But right now, the pencil layer is in our way. So I'm going to replace it. If this was ink, there are things called color holds. I don't know if that's the professional term anymore, but you can look up color holds. And that's something that a lot of colorists do when they're working with inked art, where the artists use their ink to shade, which actually coloring wise is kind of a pain in the butt. It's more annoying to deal with an inker's coloring and shading, what we would call value on an HSV slider. We don't want a lot of ink to affect our colors. So if you look at, let's say, Todd McFarlane's art, which is very ink heavy, and he uses ink for a lot of his shading, a colorist would have to do a color hold, which, let's pretend this pencil layer was a ink layer. You would lock the transparency. And unfortunately, all of this is white pixels, but you would have alpha pixels here. Maybe I'll do that in another video if you guys are interested. But then you would change the colors. Like, let's say, as an example of this, you would start changing the colors of the ink itself, and then you would add the colors on top. So now all the pencils are in a greenish direction. But obviously that doesn't work everywhere. So I might choose a different color here than here because those are different colors. You got skin versus whatever else you want the cloak to be. So that's a pain in the butt. So right now I'm going to do the laborious process of, not laborious, it's kind of fun, relaxing. I'm going to just ink digitally this character. So what I would do to do this is we have the pencil layer, and I'm going to lower the opacity to a certain amount, let's say 25, 30. I hope you guys can see it. And I'm going to create a new layer on top. We'll call it ink. And I'm just going to ink this character, and it's going to take a long time. So if you guys want to talk about anything, you let me know. Otherwise, we can enjoy some music, or I could talk about doctors and gynecologists again. But for now, I'm going to change the colors of the ink, some of the colors, so I could show you guys what I meant with color holds. But I'm just going to use black for now. And I'm using a special brush that I created. Let's see, 19 might be too high. All right, 12 pixel brush. Let's see what we're... All right, let's go for it. And I'm using a pencil tool again because I want my selections to be nice and crisp. If I was using a paintbrush, it would leave really awkward edges. Like this. If you zoom in, you can see there's gray edges here. And we don't want that when we make selections. So let's say I wanted to change this color, the color of this stroke. I would have to do it this way. There's a lot of unnecessary steps. Basically, it's a pain. I want to be able to magic wand my lines and then change the color on a whim. So that's the quick version of why I don't use the paintbrush tool for line work. And you don't want anti-aliased lines anyway when you're inking. especially in black and white. You want your lines to be super, super crisp. And maybe I'm overdue to do a video on how I set up my pages for print. But unfortunately, work in real life is in the way, so maybe if there's enough interest. Sandslasher asks, do I still have my wisdom teeth? Some of them. I have never been under the knife in that sense, but I have visited the dentist many times. Is that on your heart because you have to get your wisdom teeth out? I don't envy you. As I get older, I realize like it's going to be harder and harder. They say it's going to get harder and harder. Your face inflates and you have to be put under. And for someone like me, that's a very unattractive prospect. I don't even like drinking, so I'm actually going to change the background color so I can see my white colors. Okay. Yeah, I don't like drinking or doing drugs or anything like that. So the idea of being on a table where they give you the gas and stuff to knock you out, I hate that idea. I want to be more in control of myself, not less, you know? Right now, music-wise, is Mitch Murder, Ocean Avenue. Now I'm fighting the temptation right now. What I want to do is take my paint bucket, start going like that, and start filling in my colors. Maybe I will do that. I don't know. We got the flats here. No good. That's going to be a problem. That's embarrassing. Whatever. All right, so I'm using my rotation tool for easier strokes, and I'm just going to do my best to stay in the lines here. That was my hand, not a fart. I have not farted once in my life. Farting is for weak monsters. I'm not farting. All right. Not amazing. You can see like the strokes have no discipline. I'm too lazy. But also those strokes are alive. You can't have like lines with rulers. I think those kinds of lines are dead. By dead, I mean like they have no vitality. They don't breathe. I like lines that are kind of crooked. Like if you look at Late Peanuts by Charles Schultz, he had some kind of heart operation and his lines became really squiggly. But the comic still had life to it. So I actually don't use anything like rulers, and I'm not too hard on myself when my lines are wobbly like this. Sandslasher, the Eternal, keeping the chats alive. Let's see. You had your teeth taken out. So you were aware of it. Oh, that sucks. So you were awake during your operation. Jeez. I had one operation once on my tailbone. I was a kid, and not a kid, but older, and I was fine during the operation. Then they gave me some kind of opioid injection to like for painkilling or something. And as soon as the operation was over and that stuff started going through my system, I started like weeping. And I guess I was trying to be a brave little soldier, but it sucked because it was like in front of people. I was so embarrassed. And you ask me if I'm a fartophobe. No, but that would be funny. I guess there are fartophobes out there. What would you call them? In Greek, the word for fart is, well, I don't know if it's the Greek proper word, but eklasis. Sounds a lot like the word church, which is funny. Which is ekklesia. Maybe an eclisphobia, flatiophobia. You wouldn't get very far in life having flatiophobia. But then there's probably people who have phobias of pooping and stuff, who I feel bad for. Aren't you glad you're here, Crystal? Oh my goodness. This is the quality content that I can bring to the table. I should do this every day. Sin Slasher sounds like clap, which is what happens when you fart. Yeah, the old, butt cheeks making the trombone sound. Yeah, you know how it is. Speaking of farts, and this is a thing that I can talk about all day, by the way, so I warn you guys not to get me started in the future. You ever seen a video of someone putting like powder on their butt? Over pants, of course. Let's not be creepy. They put like baby powder or something on their butt, and then they fart, and you can see the baby powder go. Endless fun. If you're ever bored or you're feeling depressed at night, that's what you put on, and you feel instantly better. And with that, let's keep it classy. You know what? I'm cheating now. I'm just going to start filling in the colors. I did my flats layer, and maybe I'm just going to ignore it now. Who cares? Or at least I can use it as reference. But you can see in the old pencil layer here, there was shading here. And I'm going to actually change those colors. Let's do it. Let's be bold. Bring back the flats layer. I want that skin color. Let's do, I'm going to add it to the ink layer, which is kind of not smart, but all right, so we have this color as a skin color. I'll pick that as a shadow color. I don't know if that's the final shadow color, but that's where it would be. And the nose. Nose is going to be a reddish hue, very similar to the skin tone. So start with this color and see how it looks. Yeah, not amazing, but it'll do. So right now, this is not a necessary step, but I like to do it. I just like to get a feel for what the character is going to kind of look like at the end. So it's kind of cool. Now I can replace the shadows wherever I want, and I will probably change these color temperatures before I'm done. I really hope this isn't too boring to watch. All right, so that process times the whole image, and that's what I'm going to do now. Let's see, what time is it? 3:30. How long? Oh, geez, it's been an hour. Holy crap. 48 minutes. I was only planning to do this for an hour. I don't know. Is this boring? Should I go on for an hour maybe and then stop? Or should I do the whole image? I would be going faster, except I'm not like used to this yet. Streaming and whatnot. Sin Slash is going insane from boredom. You should draw too, man. That's your passion. Boredom is actually underrated. I think a lot of people who are creative would be more creative if they didn't have things to do. And I realize I say this as I'm streaming something. Like to kill the boredom, let's say, you play a video game or something. But because you're using your energy playing a video game, and I'm saying this about myself, I'm playing a game and instead, like that's my, I gotta change the music. Because I'm playing a game, that's what's taking up my attention and I'm passing the time. Whereas, let's say 100 years ago, you don't have that game to play. So instead, you paint or write. So I actually am not afraid of boredom anymore. I used to be. I've had to train myself to just be okay with sitting in my room or my desk at my workspace and staring at my like a blank canvas, or going for walks or something just to get inspired. And if you don't get inspired, big deal. But at least you're chewing on your stories or whatever project you want to be working on. And that's my soliloquy about boredom, and I have much to say about it. Pickle Pack saying hi, just letting you know that I exist. Oh man. Don't we all just want to let each other know that we exist? That's deep. What's up, man? I think I should invite people on these. I don't know. But they have to be chill people. Let's be very chill. This is a work day kind of thing, right? Some people do live streams at night. I couldn't imagine. Why would you want to do it at night? That's when the fun starts, when your family gets home and everyone can hang out. I guess some people don't have family stuff. This is what I used to do. I was a lone wolf. I would like play an MMO while listening to live streams, like Ethan. It's fun. Ever since I became a married man, I just don't do that sort of thing anymore. Play with my cat, watch TV. I'm tired at the end of the day, so I just relax. I don't even have time to play video games very much anymore. It's kind of sad. I still buy them because I figure by the time I'm like a 75-year-old retired man, that's when I'll play all my games. Let's see. 100 years ago, they were in the roaring 20s, so probably not as bored as we are these days. Roaring 20s. Following the Depression? When was the Depression? Late 10s? Roaring 20s. I have some books on the, let's see, following the Great Depression or just during it. Those people were very poor, but like, what did they do all day? I guess they socialized. They hung with their families and they worked. If you look at photos of like families and stuff, you see the kids chilling out with the parents, or kids worked back then, didn't they? And then you got the moms and the grandmas chilling at the house. Not chilling, you know, I'm being hyperbolic, but those are hard times, man. Let's see. Looks like became my dad. I don't know if that's true. Good videos of late. Tommy Sarkinen says, Rakita reading Mayer versus Wade stuff. Zach talking about crowdfunding. Yeah. It's weird. Like, this is the kind of content I'm super interested in. But the more I think about Comicsgate, like, people have really strong constitutions to handle that sort of thing. But for me, it, like, stresses me out. Like, fighting is fun, I guess. But it's like that quote that's going around, it's all so tiresome. Like, I'm really interested in the lawsuit, but at the same time, like, hearing about it makes me sick. You know what I mean? That's like what happens when it happens to me. When some creep like Wade tries to ruin my career, as if it hasn't been ruined enough times, or attempted to be ruined enough times. Hashtag my life is so hard. It's just, I don't know. I guess I'm in that sensitive place in my career where it's like, I just want to do what I want to do. I don't want to think about the drama anymore. I'm so sick of it. But, you know, some people bring the fight to you. You know, what do you do in that set? What do you do when that happens? I don't know. Draw. I think that's what I should do. Some people, for them, their product is drama, but for me, my product is books. And I like talking. I like talking to wise people who are peace-loving and mellow. I don't want people yelling at each other. As interested as I am. Scott, hey man, we haven't talked in a while. Not cut out for confrontation. There is positive confrontation. Like, I like debate. But But then there's the sorts of fights you get into like in an Overwatch match. You know what I mean? Where it's like just people like ow, 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 ow. You know, they're just yelling like, and everybody's inner like primate comes out. And next thing you know, we're all just flinging crap at each other. And it's like, can we just be higher beings? Let's use our frontal neocortex or whatever. You know. Let's see. This comment says, money still talks. Let's see. I guess you got to look at where the money is. I think I wrote a little bit the other day on Twitter about how it's too bad that a lot of the, I guess, the loudest, most noticeable projects are the ones that get the most fighting involved. And I really feel bad for those creators. Like, okay, you're getting money, that's good. But the amount of stress you have to deal with, it's like, is it worth it? I guess everyone has to decide that for themselves. But I don't know, man. Who wants to deal with that stress? Some people get a thrill out of it. I like painting, personally. So right now I'm kind of cheating, just to quickly explain what I'm doing. I was doing an ink layer, but I decided to just paint. This is an interesting thing real quick. This is called a tangent, what I just did by accident. If you look at this circle here, these lines are intersecting when you do red. So this line intersects with this line, intersects with this line, and it creates a problem right here, right here. And that's bad. When you're inking, or if you're coloring or painting in general, you want to avoid that. And I'm pretty sure they're called tangents. So I'm going to move this line so that it does not intersect with these, if that makes sense, what I just did. So I'm just going to keep going for tangents. I had to really train myself to watch out for them at some point because I used to do them a lot. You'll find that if you're an artist, if you avoid tangents, your art will come out a lot clearer, look a lot better. See a lot of, let's say, I'm trying to think of like what level that would happen at. I guess when I was in college-ish, I did a lot of tangents and I didn't realize what I was doing. And a lot of my, this only applies to clean line style. But yeah, a lot of my lines were clashing with each other and the figures were kind of bleeding together and nothing was really standing out and I didn't know why. So tangents is one of the reasons. Contrast is another. We can do, I could do like a mini lesson on contrast, but right now I'm just outlining and I'm using a 12 pixel brush. We are at 600 BPI and the image is 6 by 9 inches, if anyone is curious. Let's see, look at the comments real quick. Too much soy in the frontal cortex, yeah. I don't know, man. The page that I posted today. Oh yeah, Scott's referring to one of the strips I posted today was took place in a Starbucks where some people were saying, hi, how are you? And the response was, I'm good, how are you? And the other person says, I'm so great, how are you? And they don't realize they're in a loop. And it's like a feedback loop, you know, like when you put a sound thing next to a microphone, a speaker next to a microphone. So they keep saying, how are you? I'm great. How are you? I'm so good. How are you? And they don't realize that they're getting louder and louder. And then Greg only has a moment to get out of the way, and the whole cafe explodes into a black hole, a singularity, and they get sucked in. Because I've been there at cafes where somebody's saying, you know, oh, they see their friend Stacy or something, right? It's like, oh, Stacy, how are you? Oh my gosh, I'm so good. How are you? And they don't realize that they're not actually having a conversation. It's a huge pet peeve of mine where people just keep saying, how are you? As if it's a greeting. Like, bro, do you really want to know how I am? If not, just say hi. Just say hi. You hear the craziest things at Starbucks. That's why I always wear headphones. I just don't want to deal with people. And that's why I'm talking to myself on the internet. Let's see. Pickle pack. I remember being taught to avoid those. Don't know what you mean. I'm sorry, I missed that conversation. So I'm just looking at the comments real quick. Tommy, Tomi, Tommy or Tommy has it, says it right. I think it's good to follow these people, but I think to go full fanboy, though it's fun to like people who are basically internet celebrities. I've been reading a book about that. It's almost like the human brain or the soul is not meant to be a celebrity. It's like people change when they get famous. I'm not speaking about anybody in particular, but like it's too bad that when people, like if you look at H3H3, like they were making these amazing videos and then they got so famous that they stopped making videos. And it was just too bad. But this book I'm reading, I'll post about it on Twitter. I posted about it yesterday. It's by this guy, Robert Greene. It's called Human Nature, something like that. It's basically about like what happens, I don't know, when people think in clusters instead of as rational individuals. It's really interesting. But it's like that joke, like you never go full blank. It's like you never go full fanboy because you never know like what kind of negative effects it's going to have on you or the person that you are a huge fan of. Let's see. When was the last time you said you're welcome to someone who thanked you? I feel like that's a meme. Is that a meme? Oh, Pickle Pack says, we're taught to avoid intersecting lines. Tangents. Yeah, definitely want to avoid those. Music's kind of getting on my nerves now. Let's see. I'll pick something else. Talk amongst yourselves. Pronounce some Nujabes. June Seba, who's one of the greatest chill hop composers of all time. This weekend, says Tommy, I need to create new character for tabletop RPG, which is nice. No artistic talent, so I get to pretend that I'm creative while creating the character. I love RPGs. Yeah, I'm with you, man. Assuming you're a man. I just hashtag assumed your gender. I'm sorry. RPGs are the best. I just introduced my nephews to a very light version of D&D, and they loved it. So much fun. I'm just going to zoom out real quick to show the progress. Geez, I hope I can finish soon. I don't want to like capitalize on people's time. All right, I'll just keep going then. Hopefully we'll be finished in the next half hour or so. Stan Slasher says power corrupts, always happens. I agree. I think part of it is pride also. Or the book I was reading talks about how people are like chasing this feeling of, like everyone's lonely, right? And everyone really, not everyone, but lots of people have low self-esteem and stuff. And when their ego is fed, like if you think about the celebrity factor, like Kanye West or something, you can tell he actually has like really low self-esteem. But because he's surrounded by people who always talk about how great he is, he's inflating himself. And then when he's faced with the possibility of, oh no, maybe I am just that kid who has low self-esteem, like who he really is when no one's watching. And then he starts acting up because he's desperate to feel like I'm special. I'm the person everyone says I am. So there's this pride thing that happens to the human heart, I think, because we don't like feeling alone and scared and small, which is one of the reasons why I don't like going to cities. I think subconsciously what happens to me is that I just like feel like a drop in the bucket. And it makes me feel so profoundly lonely that I just don't like going to cities. That's my theory anyway. All right, almost done with the line work. Comments real quick. Pickle Pack is trying to become a comic artist themselves. Still trying to improve my skills, but I'll get there eventually. Yes, do it. It depends on your age, and it also depends, like the speed at which you'll grow depends on your age and your personal responsibilities. There's something called the 10,000 hour rule that back when I used to teach art, I used to talk about it all the time. Basically, if you do anything for 10,000 hours, they say you'll master it. So it doesn't have to be 10,000 hours exactly. But if you practice for that long, the theory is that you'll be, up to the level that you want to be, let's say. So however many hours that is. Another joke that I would say is like, you have to practice on as much paper as you are tall. So if you took a stack of paper from Staples and you stacked it up to your height, and that's how much you have to practice to be a master. And it helps to be short like me, because that means you grow faster. I'm pretty sure that's how it works. Her legs don't match, but I currently don't mind. I'm going to do something weird with her legs. Let's see. Scott says something awesome. That reminds me, this exact thing that you say, you've never been miles out in the desert, huh? Now that makes you feel lonely. That reminds me that I've been wanting to talk to Scott for a long time. I don't remember what service you were in. I don't want to assume, but you're a veteran, right? And I just think that kind of career or those experiences are so fascinating. So I have to talk to you sometime, Scott. I really like what you talk about. You've never been miles out in the desert, talking about feeling lonely. Like if you're talking about like the Middle East army, okay. Yeah, that must be a crazy feeling. And I'm so curious to hear about it. I hope it doesn't sound disrespectful that I'm interested. Like I'm not like interested in a popcorn way. Like I find it fascinating. In general, I used to read a lot of army-ish books and that sort of thing in school. And I don't really have the disposition for army kind of thing. Like I probably wouldn't do very well, but I really admire the lifestyle. Not the lifestyle, but you know what I mean. The kind of like everything about it's so interesting to me. I would love to hear about that story, like what you thought about what it felt like to be out in the desert. That sounds really interesting. Like I've been out to sea before, let's say, but I get seasick. Everything that has an interesting life experience, for some reason, I'm like I get sick or something. But that's sensitive artists, right? All right. I'm almost going to do color holds. So maybe we'll get to a close to finished. I don't know. We'll see how close to finished we get. Red on the inside here. I think we did that. Yeah. Red on the inside. Actually, I don't want to mislead anyone here. I'm not going to do her legs because I think it would be cool to just have a gradient. We'll see. I'm not going to paint her legs is what I'm trying to say. Let's block that in. We'll look at the thing real quick. All right, Scott, why don't you shoot me a PM? Let's see if we can set up something this week or something. Let's see. Yeah, I really want to hear, like, not just army stories, but your book is called, he's got a book, if anyone's curious, it's called Door Kickers. It's about people doing operations, but also there's like Cthulhu mythology in it, and it's really interesting. So Door Kickers, Scott on Twitter, you should check him out. Yeah, let's talk this week or something like that. Tommy, I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Tommy or Tommy? You gotta let me know. Like this design, very archetypical in a good way. Thank you. It was just a sketch, but I don't know. Hopefully I can do more interesting composition and stuff, but I really just have to get used to this. Bow tie there. The inside of her tuxedo, let's say, pick that color for now. No, that's not good. Skin color. I'll just go with this for now. All right, so what I did, as you can see, is I made an ink, in air quotes, layer. So I don't need the pencil layer right now. Although that in itself that's a good looking illustration. It can be good if I do the flats. Maybe that's for another time. But this is super clean. These lines are super clean. And now I can change the colors. So let's do that a little bit. I hope this is not too boring, but just look at the comments real quick. Tommy says, I am Finn. Tommy is pronounced close to your Tommy. Do not mind the surname. Sorry. No problem, dude. Dude or dudette. I'm making all these mistakes now. All right, so now we have to decide on some colors. I liked the purple on the inside here, so let's change the hue. Not that. Color sliders. All right, real quick. What I've been doing here, if you look at my swatches, is there's 3 values when you're choosing your color. And it took me a long time to learn this. There's hue, which is H, S, saturation, and value. So hue is just the chrome, the actual, like if the color wheel as I'm spinning this, that's the hue. Saturation is how close to gray or how bright your color is. So maybe we can turn this into a little quick lesson in saturation. And let's say this is a high saturation color. This is also a high saturation color, but it's darker because the value is going down. So if you look at the color picker, and I recommend, it's called Coolarus. If you guys use Photoshop, I highly, highly recommend getting it. It really helps you with your color choices. So I'm just going down, and if you look at these colors, and if you change these sliders around, you can see what it does to the colors. And we'll have to talk about color theory another time. But I'm choosing my colors right now based on chrome, or the hue, and I'm not worried about saturation and value just yet. Value is how close to black it is. So we'll have that color, and then it goes down, and the value goes down. And then sometimes you pick really saturated colors, sometimes you pick really unsaturated colors. And that's a whole video series in itself. If you want to look that up, you can look up color theory. I don't remember what videos they are on YouTube, but they're super useful. Let's see. As I'm coloring, I'm just going to look at the comments to see what's good to talk about. Any advice for writing comics? I don't have much life experience to draw from because I'm a shut-in loner. That's a tough one. I'm also sort of, I don't like socializing very much. Writing comics. Can I talk about this as I'm working? I don't know if I can. Like if I have enough brain RAM to do this. All right, as I'm talking about it, I'll just do the values. Right now I'm putting the values, AKA shadows, like these shadows, as I'm talking. So I'll do that. Writing. You do need to draw from life experience in order to write. I think that's true. You could write from non-life experiences, but I think a richer story, like we talked about Scott here with Door Kickers, I think he's going to be able to write a much better story because he's lived through probably a lot of the experiences that he's going to write about. Whereas if I tried to write a story about what it's like to be in the military, I've never been in the military, so maybe my story would go in very different directions than his. Maybe for worse, probably for worse, or at least it would be less realistic if that's the kind of story you're interested in going with. So I think life experience is very important, but that doesn't mean you can't write if you haven't had an experience. So like I've never encountered a vampire before, but I bet I could write a fun vampire story because if you think about the themes that go into a vampire story, like let's say I have a story in Problematic where a vampire, in air quotes, attacks one of the characters. And one of the themes is going to be stalking. And I knew a kid who was a victim of stalking growing up. And you can put some of those, like deciding like on tone, of course. Do you want it to be like a horror story? Because you know what that feels like, or you've heard what that feels like. So you can make a richer story by drawing upon experiences that you've gone through or experiences of others. If you're just getting started, I would say don't worry about life experiences too much. There's a lot of comics. It depends on the kind of comic you want to make, but you can just make hashtag relatable comics. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you want to tell like autobiographical stories or stories that draw from real life experiences, I would say don't be in a rush to write too many stories. Like don't force them out. If you want to write a story about something, like let's say I'm not saying this is you, but let's say you were in you want to write a romantic story, but you haven't been in a really good romance. Your only romantic experiences are like boring, let's say. I would say wait until that story writes itself. I always say wait until like a good story writes itself. That doesn't necessarily mean, go out and seek these stories out in order to write them. But as you live longer, and I only say this because I'm like 30, 34-ish, almost 33, whatever. I've been through a lot. But like as we get older, we have more experiences to draw from and we can write richer stories. But that can also mean they're less relatable to other generations. Comments real quick. Dark green, maybe. Sandslasher asks, do I write the comics first or do I draw them first? Always write them first. That's what I do. Never put pencil to paper unless there's a story behind it. So that's why like if someone asks what I do for a living, I say I'm an illustrator, not an artist, because I don't actually like I enjoy drawing, but I don't draw for the sake of drawing. And I'm noticing, by the way, as an artist, I'm speaking now, the color of her mustache clashes with this. So I'm going to change the color of the mustache. Or I'll do what Tommy says. I'll change that to green for a little while. So now I'm changing the hue, if anyone's wondering. We're changing the hue. And if you look at the color wheel, part of color theory says the opposite of red is green. So I'm going to actually go with the green so that the contrast is as high as possible. I'm going to lower the saturation so it's not distracting, but I might raise the saturation later. So her mustache is a warm hue and it's against a cool green. And we'll just see if that works. If not, we'll change the colors. And again, I really like the purple here. Let's see. Let's look at the comments real quick. Oh yeah, I was talking about, do I write or draw comics first? Yeah, I always have scripts. Like Problematic, I've said before in the past, there's at least, how many hundreds? 500 more strips ready to be drawn. I just don't have the time to actually draw them. As you know, day job and stuff. It's kind of cool, but not amazing. I might leave this alone because choosing colors is kind of a difficult and time-consuming process. I don't want to subject you guys to that. Let's see. I'm going to do value a little bit more. Okay. There is a black line here, and I'm going to get rid of it. I actually don't want black as a shading color right now, because that makes, I think, the color look less rich. So I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to take this color here as the shadow color for this. I'm going to do what's called a color hold on the black. So now it's not black anymore, if you can see. That's a pure black right there, and that's the gray. It's a dark gray. And the result is that it gives a nice outline. I'm going to actually add an outline here. So the exterior is a little darker. Is a little, or the stroke around the character is darker. So that's pretty cool. That's going to look good when it's finished. And you do that to separate objects. In comics, when you're inking, you want to use line weight, or the, it's my hand against the tablet, I'm not farting. I have a glove to stop that, but maybe I'll put it on actually. Okay, so that makes the hat stand out just a little more. So you want to use thick lines to separate objects and otherwise use thin lines. And that's just one more way you can create contrast in your illustrations. I don't like this brown. What am I going to do? I want that to be red. I think I want that to be red. Go away, ad. I'm playing with the hue. The background is also throwing me off, so I'm going to get rid of that color. Because that color can be anything I want. Let's see. That looks kind of good. Not pink pink, but sort of pink. I kind of like that. Maybe. All right, but then I have to change this. Let's see. A blue mustache. Yeah, that could work, I guess. It stands out. Let's keep that blue for now. I did like purple here. Stupid music. There. So now is the boring part, where I'm just changing colors around. Pickle Pack says, maybe fantasy would be the best option for me. Yeah. Fantasy is always a lot of fun. There's no rules. I mean, there are rules. As long as you're consistent within the world you create, most of your readers will be okay with it. You can't just have space aliens come out of nowhere if you haven't foreshadowed it. Okay, we're getting to the part where I might have to sign off because I'm just changing colors around and I'm certain that's not fun to watch. But I will post the finished piece. Now we're just adding the shadows. The song, I like the song a lot. It's called Existence by somebody called Cold. Cold Existence. Ever feel cold? It's to freeze. All right. This is distracting. It shouldn't be. All right. We're not going to worry about that right now. Her sash. I'm seeing a deep red. Phthalo green. See, a lot of these colors are going to depend on each other. So what do we do? I'm just going to do something bold. Kind of weird. Maybe. Blue looks good. Go away. Add. Yeah, I'm gonna have to figure this out later. So I'm going to wrap things up soon. If there's anything else fun to talk about, let's see. Yeah, Pickle, if you have anything that you want to recommend, I'll look it up. Right now I've been listening to classical and it's that genre. I call it neo-retro. 80s music that's made in modern day. An artist named FM84 is really good. Or Mitch Murder. Are we close? Are we close? Maybe we're getting closer. It's actually really hard. It's hard to choose colors when there's people listening. Like, I want to put on a good show. I don't want to be boring. Portishead. I will look that up. Not right now. Right. Close to hitting a dead end, so I'm going to just finish out this last piece. I'm amazed that anyone showed up for this, so I hope you guys somehow have gotten value out of this. I do want to do more of these in the future. I guess I just got to practice at talking and drawing at the same time. My one thing is I don't want to be boring. Shoot, I don't know. Let me know what you guys thought. I'm on Twitter, you know, gprime85. Let me know what you think. And yeah, maybe while I'm painting during the day, I'll just throw a live stream out there and I'll paint and chat with you guys. It's been kind of fun, relaxing. All right. Well, I'm going to stop here for now. I am very grateful that you guys showed up. I hope to see you next time. I hope you guys had fun. Hope you learned something. And I will try to do better next time. All right. So thanks so much. And maybe tomorrow, who knows? We'll see. All right. Thanks. Bye.